Yep, and we are recording.
We're recording, so let's just go ahead and say the date. The date is very critical because if somebody's watching this on replay, you need to understand this is May 4th, 2020. You know, the year that we all were looking forward to as optometrists that became something entirely different. So this is May 4th. So by tomorrow, all that we talk about may be kind of changed. So just keep that in mind. This is a moving conversation, moving target, so to speak. So with that caveat, let's get going. We're going to run through as much content as we can in about an hour. Mostly what want to do is introduce you to Steve. Steve is from Arizona. I'm going to show you his bio here in just a second. And I think you're going to want to know some things that he's discovered, and we're all discovering together, all sharing what we're learning. And keep in mind, it is changing rapidly as we speak. So notice real fast, the title of our webinar is 2020 Questions. So if you came here looking for questions, you're in the right place. If you came looking for answers, we didn't promise that, but I did promise at least a couple things that I think you're going to be glad that you joined. But we want to not only survive 2020, but we want to thrive, and that's our hope that we can help, get that to happen. We have to throw out this disclaimer, guys. We're just talking. We're not professional advisors. So anything you make a decision on and you hear that you want to try to do, just remember that. We're just facilitating a discussion with you and help figure some things out together, talk about what we know, and we'll make it clear what we know, what we're not sure about. But please, you got these high-level questions and concerns and specific situations, go to your professional, HR attorneys, CPAs, and your payroll company. So not too much here about me. I am from Georgia. I know a lot of you folks been doing this private practice thing for 20 years. Glad to be a grandpa now. That's the best part of life right there if you haven't got there yet. So anyway, enough about me. Now, Steve, I've just met Steve this year. He has been in the business for quite a while, brings a lot of experience, frequent contributor to our Review of Optometric Business. He's going to give you a preview of an article coming out, and that's another place you're going to be able to click on some free tools that he's already got prepared. I'm going to say he's the master of Excel spreadsheet. He can make that thing turn flips, I promise you. So his cell phone's there. He's been a good friend of mine. His email address is right there. So let's keep going. So this is all about questions. We have no limit of questions. I'm sure you do. And, we're going to probably be in different places. I just got my PP dollars on Thursday evening about 6 o'clock. So my official start day was Friday, May 1st. That was perfect timing for me. Some of you may be still waiting for funds or waiting to hear if you've gotten approved. So mostly we're going to hit a deep dive on PPP. But think about the new language that we've all had to learn in the last 6 or 7 weeks. Words we didn't even speak before, now we've become familiar with. So EIDL, PPP, Family Medical Leave Act, unemployment insurance. Whoever thought that we would be getting back some of our money that we contribute in the form of an unemployment check? So that has been a good mode of survival for me and my practice, including my family. The employees have been pretty happy there. So, just starting to rehire people today. I did post an example of a letter for rehire, sort of an official welcome back and a good chance to talk to your employees that you're bringing back off of furlough when you get PPP dollars. So lots of new terminology out there. Now, there's so many frequently asked questions, and we're not going to hit everything today. There's just no way, but you have those questions, and it's a good place, a good safe place to ask those questions here. Maybe continue on GOA list, serve, and keep sharing. Keep sharing. We're all in this together. So some of the big questions, just skipping down on this list, just budgeting. Me and Steve are looking at November to try to project what are we going to make any money in November. So those are the great questions that we need to be asking right now. Are patients ready to come back? Do I have enough PPE, protection equipment? I've sent out a Survey Monkey survey to see what patients are really thinking and what they need. So online glasses, contacts, things that maybe we should have done a couple years ago are now here upon us. So I keep saying the future got here a few years ago, even though some of us maybe are just getting there. So lots of questions. I'm going to, with the introduction to the main component of today's talk, or just talk about PPP, kind of what we know. And I've gotten some questions from people that maybe still don't just have some of the basics. So I'm going to throw out what we kind of think we can all agree on and what's clear. And then we'll get to the places that are more gray, maybe not clear. And I'm going to bring Steve on at that time and let him weigh in, and because he's just really keeping his ear to the ground. And as you know, and you guys have shared things with me that are just come out every day, and it's so hard to keep up and not miss anything. So here's the stuff that we know that you probably, hopefully you have just memorized this by now. So, we had to turn in our average payroll. I turned my payroll in for fiscal year 19, 2.5 times your average monthly payroll, including yourself, is that loan amount. So a pretty easy calculation, even though some nuances there. So it is possible to have this 100% forgiven. So definitely want to use it over 8 weeks. That's 56 days. In my eyes, 56 days started May 1st. That's when you receive the funds. Now, you must use at least 75% for payroll. And sure, there are some areas that you have to think through that are a little bit more gray. And so we're going to get to some of those things. So that remaining 25% can only be spent on rent, utilities, and interest. So some of you may have rent that's been deferred, like I do on a satellite office. I've got some loan payments deferred, but we're going to help show you sort of how to make some good housekeeping and keep these records. All right. So second round of funding. Steve had to update me this morning. I think Steve, did you say, tell them the amount if you're still there? How much has already been approved?
Sure. In the second round of the PPP program, there's already been 175 billion of the 310 billion already approved. So it's going fast.
It's a massive amount of money. Hopefully you got in early on this. Second round just funding. Is there going to be a third round? Or are they going to change some of the rules? We'll see. So very clearly, loan payments deferred for 6 months. So here's what that means. It is a loan. You do have to pay it back unless you follow the rules, and you don't have to pay it back. Does that make sense? So let's just say you got 60,000, but 10,000 is not going to be forgivable. Your loan payments will start 6 months from really what they've been calling June 30th, but I think that date may have to be adjusted, as we'll talk about. And I think, Steve, I'm right. It's really 1% interest over a 2-year AM. Is that right?
Correct, on the amount that's not forgivable.
Yeah. So if you got a little bit, you have to pay back. That's the terms, okay? So we also know it can go towards sick leave, paid time off. You didn't need any collateral. You didn't need a personal guarantee. It's amazing the SBA didn't ask for your 3 kids to give you money. But anyway, don't forget the 100K salary cap that may apply to some of your docs or yourself. So the owner can receive pay. For me, I get a paycheck, so it's a little bit easier to roll my amount up into that calculation. If you just take draws, it was a little bit more tricky. So don't forget, if an employee has COVID or is taking care of a person at home with COVID, there are other programs that can take care of paying them, not PPP. Now, Steve, let's start talking about all the things that are more gray areas, and that's where you might come in and just help us get some clarity. And there's lots of these things. Sure, full-time equivalent, but how do we define that? Can we hire our dog? Can we hire our family? Those kinds of things. So if you want to start here, Steve, just about the fact that we do have some gray areas here.
Sure. In the definition of the FTE, both the IRS, Department of Treasury, and the SBA have not clearly defined what that means. So if y'all don't know, FTE is an acronym for full-time equivalent of an employee. In your calculation and the number of employees in your application, what you did is you took that average based on the 2019 payroll, and that's what you entered in on your application. Again, no definition for part-time or full-time. They're just using head count basically as a way to understand it at this point in time. In the webinars that I've attended, CPAs, human resource groups and so forth, and legal firms, they're looking towards a true definition of FTE probably by the end of May. This is in preparation for when you will go in the end of June or when your 56 days are up and with your bank and request for forgiveness of these funds that you've received. So right now, really, it's not truly clear. They're basically going by head count. Hope that's helpful. Are there any questions coming up from that, Matt, that you're seeing?
I'll take a look.
On the FTs?
So some are getting an echo. Let me see if I can turn my volume down. I'm sorry about that. I'll try to work on that, guys. Steve, just keep going there. Sorry.
Yep. So in family hiring, that question has arose obviously where many of us in the practices, we do have family members that do work in the clinic. Can you hire them and use the PPP money? My understanding from other practices, from HR companies, from legal minds, they are stating that they are hiring family. Again, the bank, when you go in and ask for forgiveness, they're going to ask and look at the FTE or full-time equivalent of the number of head count. They're not going to ask for, is this a family member or not, from our understanding. Again, I would highly recommend, again, you reach out to your bank for a clarification, your CPA, or your HR group. And how to handle employees who are not rehired or those who are not ready, willing, and able to return. So really, this isn't a gray matter as much as you may think. So this follows the general guidelines with Human Resources and Department of Labor. In this, hopefully y'all had furloughed your employees. That was one of the recommendations at the very onset of the PPP and the COVID-19 impact on the practices. If you furloughed them, provided them with a letter that they were furloughed, what that basically meant was, we're laying you off right now because of the COVID-19. You will be rehired once we get the approval to reopen our businesses. And with that, you should officially stay in contact with your employees if you haven't opened yet. And when you do reopen, formally send them a letter that they are being rehired. And if the employee accepts, great, they come back on the rolls. You'll have to then follow up with your HR, your payroll companies to get them rehired and get back on the rolls again. Now, what if an employee says, I'm not coming back?
Yeah.
So that is really what that means is the employee is not accepting being rehired by you when you reopen your business. In essence, what that means is the employee is giving you a verbal termination.
Yes.
Again, I would follow this up with in writing as a CYA that they were furloughed, you called them back to work upon reopening, of which they verbally declined to accept the rehire, which then means they have resigned. And that's a voluntary resignation.
Let me say we've got some guidance from our payroll company, and I shared on GOA this morning a sample letter, and you guys may have a better one. I just wanted to share what we did, where we're going through talking with each person, asking them if they would like to come back, and they accept. it's a good chance just to like clean things up with each employee, as you invite them back. So we'll get to some other slides here in a second about some being careful about right now with discrimination, those kinds of things. So Steve, I'm gonna move on to those dates so we can keep going, and I'll let you kind of tell how you came up with some of these key dates. In fact, one of the questions that I will answer, there is a 6-month deferral, and from my understanding, you're 2 years to pay that back. If you think about it, it's going to start next February. So one person asked me that. I think that you have 6 months. If you're going to pay some of it back, it's deferred for 6 months, and then you have 2 years amortization on that. So I think that's my understanding.
Cool.
And now we can talk about these dates, Steve.
Sure. So these dates are important to keep in mind for those that have received their PPP. Again, you have 56 days as it stands now to use those monies for payroll as well as for utilities in ensuring the business is up and operating for patient care. With that, there are documents that you're going to be required, and it may be different by each bank for the submission of documents for forgiveness of the loan. So what that means is you're going to have to attest to the FTE or the head count during this time frame of the 56 days back to what your average was when you actually applied for your PPP loan. So, for example, if you were at, say, 10 employees or 10 head count, 10 FTEs, yet through the 56 days, you're at 8, what that means is that monies weren't fully allocated and spent for payroll. Again, the thing to keep in mind is the PPP is used by small business to take employees off of unemployment. So with that, if you are down by head count, then those monies more than likely may not be forgiven, meaning that would turn into a 1% loan. And these dates are, again, important that as you go in and submit with your documentation to the bank, that you're going to have to provide your head counts per pay period. So if you're using ADP, any other type of payroll company, make sure you keep a copy of and have those on hand of the head count per payroll period as the total payroll per pay period as well, because they're going to look at the dollar amounts and compare it back to what you provided on your application, as well as the details of the employees and their pay rate per pay period. You may all have heard is, can you give raises? Can you decrease payroll and so forth? My understanding of what I've read in the final interim rules and so forth is if you decrease payroll by 25%, that amount, it will not be forgivable, aka turns into a loan. So these are time frames that you're going to have to present to the bank. So keep that in mind. Keep all your data together in preparation for presenting to the bank. And the next slide, Matt, will actually go into some of the documents that you'll be required to present to your bank. Again, each lending institution may have different requirements when you go in for this meeting to have it forgiven.
Yeah, so there's so many lenders out there, and we've all tried to navigate. Do we want to go with the large banks, smaller banks? And it looks like in the future, if this thing keeps going, it's actually going to be a lot of these virtual lenders like Cabbage, PayPal. One of my friends, I think, went through American Express. So we've all sort of maybe learned the hard way about who and where's the best place to go. So yes.
And that's a good point.
Yeah.
Matt, with the second round of PPP monies, what I'm understanding is these fintech or financial tech companies, those are the likes of Cabbage, PayPal, Blue Vine, and so forth, they are actually processing those loans expeditiously. I mean, within days, if not hours, and they're getting their money quickly so that you can reopen. And with that, one of the questions we had, Matt, was, can I hire more than what my average FTE level was? Sure, you can hire more. just remember that those monies allocated for payroll were based on your historical numbers of payroll.
Yeah, that's
So
a
you
key.
can go
You know,
by
we have reported based on our average payroll. So if you just keep it simple, if you had 10 people and you paid X number of dollars, then that's how much money you've got to take you through these 8 weeks. So if you go up or down, or you left someone unemployment, or it's just going to get messy, and it's designed for us to say yes, we're pulling them off unemployment. And the neatest situation is you just stay right at that same amount and the same payroll amounts, and you're going to just automatically use up 75% of those funds. That's how it's calculated over your 8-week period. So
correct.
I don't see why, if you replaced a full-time employee with 2 part-times at those hours, I think that qualifies. It doesn't have to be the same people. Isn't that right, Steve?
No, that's correct. It does not have to be the same folks you had on payroll before this occurred. The thing to remember is they're looking at just FTE, their head count. And another thing that came up, another question is, can you still use the money, the PPP money, for payroll, even if the employees aren't working? Well, really what it's used for is, even if you aren't open, your state is still in the safety in place, like here in Arizona. We're still in that now through May 15th. So what that means is, if I had my money and I received it, say, last week or May 1st, the government wants you to hire back all your employees, get them off of unemployment. If you're not open, that's fine. You can still utilize the money, get the employees off of unemployment, and have your staff do things that normally wouldn't have been done. Look at your policies and procedures. Look at your patients who don't have a recall or past due recalls. There's things that you can pay them to do that they could possibly do from home or in the office. So that's what the money is intended to be used for, is get people off unemployment, get them back in and working. Understand, this money is essentially a grant to you to get people rehired, back working again. With that, it may come up as a question, I'll address it right now, is this money going to be viewed as income? If you have it forgiven, then it is a grant. The expenses used by the PPP money, such as your utilities, things of that nature, will not be deductible, so you can't double dip. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, definitely one of those key questions. But you're not saying that's considered personal income because you got
No.
the money from PPP. And that's not personal income to pay income tax on, but you're also not going to get a tax deduction as you go spend those monies. So definitely, we're not going to get to all these specific payroll questions, but I do want to, while we're on the screen, Steve, say, one person asked, so what if a lot of them don't want to come back? So let's address that, and you can tell me maybe if I'm right, but we are looking at those historical numbers, your averages. You need to stay at 100% FTE, 100% of the payroll in order to use that money up. Now, let's just say that not everybody comes back and you didn't spend $10,000. Well, it's really not your money. So you didn't spend the $10,000 on payroll. You just basically, you didn't give it to an employee. So give it back to PPP. It's not money out of your pocket. So think about it that way. Those payroll dollars are really not yours. Now, on the other hand, though, let's say that 3 out of 6 people don't come back and you need 3 people, then go get 3 more people is what I would say.
Yep.
But now that only means that they told you, I'm leaving, I want to be terminated. I'm not saying they have another legitimate reason for not coming back. Now, I'm only saying if they quit, you can replace them and use up that money and have somebody working. Am I saying that right, Steve?
No, that's 100% correct. The money is to be used to get employees or people working again. And again, if half your staff don't come back, you immediately replace them, be it even temporary, or it could be a great and new employee. So stay at that number that you had before or greater. Make sure you use up to 75% for payroll. of which then that loan then potentially have the ability to be forgiven, meaning you got the money to cover your business and see patients and get those people back working again.
Yeah, the reason to use it on employees is to get you back to being productive. I think that's been sort of the purpose behind this the whole time. So we can talk a little bit more about, again, other reasons that they may not want to come back. But let's see, let's just keep moving on. Steve, real quickly, let's get through this and push ahead.
Sure.
You talked about, remember now, this is considered a loan, and you do have a lender. So you did sign loan documents. Most of us don't read those things, but we signed a loan document with the potential to be 100% forgiven. Steve and I are both on the same page as saying, get a separate banking account for that money. Keep very, very good records. Be sure your CPA is on board with everything that you're doing. Steve's already kind of talked about keeping a good list of documentation. So what else do you want to say about this slide right here, Steve?
Well, and this is a recommendation from the CPA, ones that I've been following, and the reason why they say have a separate bank account or a separate operating account, the reason being is for that 56 days, you will have to go in and show proof that you used your PPP money for payroll and all associated expenses with that can be forgivable, as well as your utilities. Rather than co-mingling it with other funds, keep it separated. Have good, clean, concise records so that when you go in to meet with your banker, there's no question. Don't open up Pandora's box. Have clear, clean documents to support for that forgiveness. Again, if it's not forgiven, it will turn into a loan. There's another question that we had as far as the 56 days. It is 56 days, June 30th, that's the kind of a cutoff date, but we know it's going to be extended further. I've heard rumors, again, I can't confirm or deny this, but supposedly by Tuesday, there may be an announcement from the SBA or the Department of Treasury that 56 days could be extended. So right now, we just don't know exactly how that's going to work.
Yeah, there will be more guidance.
So hopefully that.
But just remember, this is now between you and the lender, and I believe for sure there's going to be a forgiveness application process, and that will be, clarified through the banker, I think.
Yeah. One thing that we haven't really addressed is the EIDL, and no questions come up about that, but I want to address it just very quickly. So you'll understand about the emergency disaster recovery through the SBA, where you have the ability to apply for a grant that is not repayable whatsoever for emergency funds of $1,000 per employee in your practice up to $10,000. The EIDL is separate from the PPP in that the EIDL money is not to be used for the same expenses as the PPP money. If you have both EIDL, say it's $10,000, and you also have your PPP loan, say that's $100,000, $10,000, the EIDL will be reduced in the PPP and will not be forgivable. So understand there is a interaction between both of those monies.
Exactly. So I can use myself as an example. I applied for EIDL money long before PPP. Didn't hear anything back from them. Had no clue if I was going to get a phone call or anything. So all of a sudden, one day, I did get a $10,000 advance straight to my checking account. Still didn't talk to anybody. Didn't receive anything. I didn't sign anything. So I wasn't surprised to get the $10,000, but by then I was in the PPP application process. So I got my full PPP dollars. So that when you add those two together, that is your amount. And what Steve, I think, is saying is it needs to go towards different expenses. But that full amount, if you take my PPP plus my $10,000, is not forgivable. That $10,000 is going to become a
Correct.
loan. And those terms, tell me if I'm wrong, Steve, I think are 3.75% interest, and you can spread it out over 30 years. Is that true?
You bet. You bet. So that can be extended, and also that's the advance. But also, you can also get that emergency disaster loan. That's up to, I believe, $2 million if you need it. But again, 3.75% for up to 30 years. So it's like having a mortgage, but a very low interest rate if you need those monies for use. Now, here's the other thing is about the EIDL. Right now, the SBA is approximately 4 weeks behind in getting all their PPP loans approved and funded. Right now, the SBA is only receiving, or they're only processing like 400 a day by each institution, very low. The EIDL has not yet opened, and there's a link to the website on SBA for the EIDL. If you did not get a PPP loan, keep looking at the SBA for the EIDL for when they open that up and apply. It's a very simple process, and as Matt alluded to, he got his advance that with no ties. So it is a very beneficial process to go through, especially if you did not get or did not apply for a PPP.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's keep going on. So, this money can be forgiven if you follow the requirements and the rules. Just going to hit this real quickly because we've already said it. Kind of, just please get a separate banking account. Keep good records. Know the requirements. Know the rules. Keep things clean and simple. Don't get crazy. Here's my analogy here. Can we bill for a level 5 exam on a dry eye patient? Yeah, we probably could, but should we do that very often? I would say not. It's one thing to have money. It's another thing not to have to give it back. So please keep it simple. Follow the rules. Listen out to GOA. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, all the guys at GOA, AOA, Aubrey. So many people to listen to. So I just appreciate them so much. So it's not a good time for a DIY approach to this. Follow the rules to get forgiveness. Steve, if I got to pay back $5,000 or $10,000, should it bother me? I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, no, with that, I mean, it's a very low interest rate. So if that 10,000, say you receive the EIDL and the PPP, 10,000 is not forgivable. Well, that rolls over into that very low interest rate loan for 2 years.
Yeah.
So again,
Yeah,
from a business operations perspective, that's cheap money.
Yeah, it really is. I think just to point out one thing, some of you may have gotten funded really quick, and maybe you were really glad to have that off your plate. However, if you were funded way back 2 or 3, 4 weeks ago when you probably weren't seeing patients, you still kind of had to send that money where it's supposed to go, which is to your employees. With me, most everybody in my practice will receive unemployment benefits through the actual end of April. And as of May 1st, my money's in the bank. That's when my 56 days begins. If your 56 days is going to start next week when you receive money, maybe clarify that with your banker. One of the rules that's out there is here's one way it says it. It says they have to fund your account within 10 days of approval. Now, I don't even know what that means because I was approved a long time ago, but I didn't get loan documents until recently. So you can ask about that 10-day period. But I mean, where we are right now in May, it's time for that money to come into your account and get going. So let's see how much more we can push through. Let's see, Steve, we want to get through in 22 minutes. So we're going to have to hit this kind of fast. Now, let me just go ahead and talk about Steve's tips. I've been with Steve for a couple months. He's a master at budgeting. We are looking now at my rest of the year numbers. So, Steve, you're going to share us some budgeting tools on your article that's coming up. Why don't you let me go through, you and I talk through these tips, and then maybe you could share the screen with your article, okay? Steve is great at budgeting, great at helping create action lists. Steve, what's an example of some of these things on our action list right now?
Yeah, on the action item list, so this is in preparation for reopening. Things to look at is review your practice SOPs, look at past due recalls, look at bringing the practice into the 21st century with online ordering portals for contact lenses. I know Matt does that through Lens Fairy, where he continued with income. Revenue was still coming through with contact lens orders. There's also now a laboratory that has online eyewear ordering portals for independent optometry. Matt got set up with that in 24 hours. So another way to bring that great customer service, but also utilizing digital systems to keep in front of your patient as well. The other thing is, looking at different ways to provide health care. Matt's also using telehealth. Not that it's for a full, complete exam, but it helps you to see and understand and stay in front of the patient in front of emergency. And I know you've had, was it yesterday you had 4 communications through telehealth? Is that correct, Matt?
So we have had telehealth, but I'm going to share at the end a tool where we're interacting with our patients through a web link. I'm going to share that as well here soon. So
Okay.
It's true. We had an online optical store up and running in a day or two. Not that it's going to save us. It's just that we should have already had that in place, and going forward, we're going to use it. So when we say, I'm going to the next bullet point, Steve, staffing plan. I mean, it's kind of getting late, but right now, most all of my staff were here today. We had them doing some things, calling patients. You need to look at that. Don't forget, if you have PPP dollars, they're all getting paid if they're home or if they're at work. Isn't that true, Steve?
That's correct. If they're at home, you're using those PPP monies and your practice isn't open or open up under limited hours, emergency only, let's say, have staff doing things at home that they could be doing, looking at, pulling reports, looking at analytics. Take a deep dive into your practice that you normally don't have time to do as a CEO of your practice. You need to understand what's going on to prepare for when you reopen and how to overcome this COVID-19 impact on your business.
Yeah, keep in mind this money's here right now. We had unemployment benefits, but the next 3, 4 to 6 months is going to be where we may get hit, and we don't have other big bucks coming from the government. So be thinking ahead.
No.
Get your staff productive as much as possible. Steve, in your article, I believe you have a sample of a spreadsheet, and why don't we get through these bullet points, then I'm gonna let you share your screen. So get ready for that.
Sure.
Yep. Steve's taught us to be working on standard operating procedures. It's a great time because all these things have changed now. You can't just put a patient in a room that hasn't been wiped down. Now we've got to get better at our operating procedures. Great time to have your staff. They're getting paid. Let them get busy. So if you haven't done this, and Steve's coached me to do this, and reaching out to vendors, my vendors, Robertson Labs, OGP have been really good about delaying our payments and that kinds of things. So anything else there, Steve?
No, really, it was working with your vendors, any type of company, anything, your landlord, what have you, see if they can provide you with some help, some deferment during this time. And that way, again, need to prepare, ramp up for reopening. One thing also to address is, in our industry, I've been doing this for 44 years. I've run multi-million-dollar practices, is to ensure your website is up to date. Look at SEO, which is search engine optimization. Really get in front of the patient with Facebook, using those digital platforms. That is the way business is going to be done going forward, especially after this COVID-19. Patients may be fearful coming in. Have your online stores ready to go. Don't lose that patient. Keep them.
Exactly. It's time to have the revenue come back. Going to give you some more tips on how to do that here shortly. So let's see. We are going to run out of time a little bit, guys. I hope this has been helpful. We may have a follow up here in a couple weeks if you guys feel like we're giving it some help to you. So let's hit this together. Again, we would rather keep it as simple as possible. I'm going to show you some potential discrimination pitfalls that's very important, and maybe just you're going to capture a screenshot here on the next couple slides, because I'm not going to have time to read it all to you. So do you have to retire all staff? No, but remember some of the things that we talked about. Maybe you want to replace someone. So can I leave someone on unemployment? It's tricky. You don't want to pay somebody unemployment 1 week and then the next week they jump on PPP dollars. You really don't want to mix the two. Am I saying that right, Steve?
Correct. You don't want to mix the two. The scenario, again, with PPP is to get people off of unemployment. There may be a question that comes up like, well, what happens after the 8 weeks? And it's not business as usual. My understanding from, again, some of the webinars I've attended from legal, HR, CPAs, worst case scenario, business doesn't pick up, you may have to put some people back on unemployment. Again, some of these things are just, we don't know, we can't see into the future, obviously. My crystal ball has been broken forever, so being able to project is the only way to protect yourself, and looking and prepare for a budget. Prepare for the worst, but be ready for the best.
Exactly. So real quickly, do I pay them full time? It's not your money. This money is from PPA to flow to those employees. Don't play that game as far as, well, they only work 20 hours this week. Can they work remotely and get some things done? Absolutely. What can they work on? We've talked about that. Training, calling patients, recalling, maybe visiting out in the community where it's safe to do so, maybe delivering some care packages, those kinds of things. So get ready to take a screenshot. I believe we can share these slides later with you and have a recording, but this is from an our payroll company. I want to show you some things to be careful of right here. So don't forget, we're not covering everything. There are some other acts out there. There's ADA. You want to be careful. It's not a time to even hint at discrimination or retaliation. If they're truly saying, somebody at home has COVID, that's a whole other thing. We don't have time to get into that. Another screenshot you may want to take right here. Just be careful. You can call our attorney. Call Brian. Brian knows that we have an attorney, Aubrey, that's available to us. Don't you do anything that can get you in trouble. I'll give you an example. We all may be looking at some employees saying, they're just not safe to come back. Either they're expecting, they're pregnant, they're older, whatever it is. You can't go there. You can't go there. So be careful. I think I would hear Aubrey saying the same thing. So that's important. One other long one. Take a screenshot here. Just be careful. Just be careful how your business is being seen right now. That you are for your staff. You are for your customers. If we just put the business first, like we want to, we may get in trouble. So be in the best interest of your community, which includes your family and your patients. So that's an important thing that came straight from Altera Payroll. So now we're going to have to wrap up here quickly. I promised some tips. So we've sort of already hit some of this already. How much is going to be forgiven? Again, this is between you that receive the money and your bank. Be ready for that forgiveness application process. Maybe it's hard to get in touch with banks right now, but be studying, looking, keeping good records. Am I right, Steve?
Exactly. And now this is, my recommendation is to look at this as though it's an IRS audit where you have to have pristine records. You want to have this forgiven. You don't want this to be turned into a loan. If it happens that is the case, so be it. But be prepared. Have pristine records.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we need some secret weapons. This is not me, but I feel like I'm a tough guy like this guy is. But we need secret weapons. I'm gonna have to hit this really quick. I'll be happy to email anything else that you need. Um, and
Hey, Matt, I wanted to show them real quick the PPP forgiveness calculator that I have too. So,
okay, let's get you on the screen after I do this, guys. I can send you all
yeah.
this, and let me go through it real quick. I switched over to Get Weave. It's a terrible experience to try to change these kind of companies, but they have actually been the right choice for me. I hired a new CPA, very disruptive, but made one accounting change, saved me $26,000. The people that I study, listen to are people at wealthfactory.com. I love hypochlorous acid right now. I was able to order lots of hydrate and order pure and clean from this website here. I did a great survey. Now, I can't say that I did a great survey. I got a great response to a survey asking patients what they need. Most of them are ready to get an eye exam. I can share those numbers. Get better at posting videos, talking with your patients, engaging. Lean on your staff. They know a lot. Don't be the micromanager. Don't be cracking the whip. Let them help you lead during a tough time. Obviously, exercise, eat right, sleep, enjoy your family. Now, hang on, I've got to share. I promised this. I left it off. So, guys, go to a website called theteleoptometrist.com, and I will share that on GOA as well. You guys probably know Mike Rothschild. Let me just say real quickly, he's got a great web link that you just send out to the patients on your schedule. They get to respond back to you, and we sent out 250 yesterday, Sunday afternoon. I got over 65 responses this morning. Those are people asking you to engage, asking us to engage with them, telling us what they need. We convert them into telehealth or an appointment, or we'll schedule you later. So I'll keep sharing some of this on GOA, but that's one of the best things I've done. Reach out to Mike Rothschild. So be optimistic. Picture of Steve. To end it up, Steve, you can take over, and we got a few minutes to show your screen real quick.
Yep, let me show you guys the items that I've created working with some of my clients. So what we're looking at is a PPP forgiveness calculator. So again, you're not in this by yourselves. There are things and tools that can be used out there. So really what this green area are areas where you're going to enter in your amounts. So let's say, for example, I received 100,000 in PPP loans. This is an automatic calculator that will show your 75%. You have to be at that or above to be considered for forgiveness. Breaks it down onto what your biweekly payroll amount is. And now all you do is you plug in your payroll amounts, and it's going to tell you if you are close to that 75% for that loan to be forgiven. Okay? Very simple, very easy to do. You can see in this case, I didn't ramp up enough here in the start, or I need to add more people here to meet that forgiveness amount. So again, a tool to help you understand how to get to that 75% using it for payroll. The other items that we worked on is the budget. Again, this is a couple calculations. You plug in your last year's amount that you did, what trend you were on before the COVID-19 impact, and then project out the revenue impact that COVID-19's had on your practice for March through April, where most states went into the safety in place and we had to shut down. May to June, when you are theoretically going to be able to reopen, and then going forward for the remainder of the year, and what impact that has on your budget and your forecast, and if you're going to make money or not. Okay. The last one is the action item list. Very simple list, but it helps you identify the action items that you're working on, who you assign them to, the priority, when they were signed, when they're due, and if they've been completed or not, and the status. So those are a few things to help as tools to get you through this COVID-19 impact on our country and in the world.
So you're going to give a preview
And
of
with
that.
that,
Did you show that preview of your article, Steve?
oh yeah,
Because some of those, you're giving some free calculators out in that article that's coming out.
yeah. So this article, let me get to it here real quick. This article is coming out May 6th in Review of Optometric Business. I don't know if everybody receives those, but that you can sign up. It is free. Let me get to it real quick. And the article also has a helpful link to preparing for, so this is what's coming out May 6th, and it's preparing for forgiveness with the calculator, the reopening action plan, preparing for reopening if you didn't get PPP, as well as if you did get PPP. So two different aspects looking at how to prepare to reopen, get back generating those revenues that have been lost, as well as links to the spreadsheets. Okay. All right, I'll hand it back over to you, Matt.
So, yeah, as I had said, you're going to see that Steve is definitely the master of spreadsheets. He's so good at that. I'm just not. And that one calculator that he showed has been shared with me. So to be able to project. So I'm going to ask you guys this. How do you feel? Do you feel optimistic? You feel like the rest of the year is going to be great for us, for optometry? And what are you basing that on? There's a great friend of mine who's pretty big in this industry that is concerned that we may be down 60% for the rest of this year in production. This guy is a smart guy, but Steve and I really just don't agree with that. I think it is important for us to consider where we're going to be in the remainder of the year, and again looking ahead. And it's really wise, I think, to project ahead. But I see businesses around me, like Chick-fil-A, the chiropractor, Lowe's department store that you can't get in. And, we didn't really debate any of that as far as politically where we're at right now and what's safe, what's not safe. But I promise you, we're going to make our office safe. I know that you are. I know some of you have been seeing patients quite a bit. In light of those projections, my cataract surgeon did 40 cataracts last week and saw lots of patients. So things are happening. I do want to encourage you to be safe. Reach out to me and Steve. Be sure to look for his article where those free links to some of his calculators are. Those things are amazing to plug in and help you make projections, make decisions. But we have a great friend in Georgia. I don't want to even say his name, but he's recovering from COVID right now. And our prayers to him and to any of you right now struggling in any kind of way. So I hope you at least got one or two answers. We promised a lot of questions. We promised a few tricks and some interpretations. I've tried to answer as many as I can on our Q&A. And with that, we're at 57 minutes. So let me see if anything else came in. Steve, you want to wrap up? Any other thoughts?
No, I appreciate Matt driving this and working together with him in preparing the practice for reopening and looking at a snapshot. Again, we don't have a crystal ball, but preparing the practice to drive forward for 2020, the remainder of 2020, and into 2021. With that, I wish you all stay safe and healthy, and we'll get through this together.
Exactly. All in this together. I'll tell what David Rossello just said. He said, I don't see us being down that much. He's very optimistic. I think it's time for all of optometrists to be optimistic. Guys, we're used to surprises and challenges. I think we're just used to it. We're survivors. We're going to survive. and thrive in 2020. We're here to send you some more resources or whatever. We don't know everything. We don't have all the answers, but we have tons of questions, and maybe we'll do a follow-up here in a couple of weeks. If you're interested, just reach out to us. But I appreciate Steve so much. He's really knows this industry well, and he's given me some timely advice. And either email us for those calculators and spreadsheets, but also when it comes out. Steve, that's coming out soon, right? Review of optometric business.
Yeah. What's today? So it'll be coming out Wednesday.
Okay. Definitely looked at that. And hey, we've got a lot of this state covered right here today. I just appreciate that, trusting us with 1 hour of your time. That means a lot to me. So I hope this has been valuable. And gosh, I hope to see all of you guys face to face. And I say maybe a big reunion in Athens, hopefully at a ball game, but at least at continuing education. So before I go, thank you so much. Thank you, Brian. I think Brian was joining us today to check things out, and I'm very appreciative of our GOA. Guys, please tell them how much you appreciate them, and let's stay pretty active on GOA list and keep talking to each other. Thank you so much for coming. Hey, go get back to the frother, spin some dials, and let's get it going. So thank you very much, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.